morning. I'm Anna Morgan, your career BFF, the host of the Evolve TA and HR Experience here in Atlanta on January 30th. So this is my second Evolve Live, and I couldn't be more excited to have one of my newest career BFFs, John Baldino, who is a Evolve sponsor and speaker. Give me some hearts if you love my snowman earrings. We have a massive snow day here in Atlanta, so I decided to break out these accessories to celebrate the snow. But what we are actually here to celebrate is the opportunity to support talent acquisition and HR leaders in a new and innovative way through the TA and HR conference called Evolve. So with that, I'm excited to bring my buddy John to the stage. Good morning.
Good morning, Anna. How are you? I will give you real hearts for the earrings. They're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are not, as you know, I am in Florida, so no snow day here today. I'm sorry to say.
Are you going to be lounging in the pool later is the question.
No, I won't be. I mean, I do have some limits. I will say, though, this morning it was 43
That's
degrees
cold
when
for
I was,
Florida.
yeah, for Florida it was cold. So we're only going up to 71 today. Super, super chilly. Yeah.
Well, our thoughts are with you. Oh my goodness. Well, I was blessed to be able to meet you through some of our mutual friends from TalentNet. A shout out to Craig Fisher and the Talent Media Group for always hosting great events. And, I definitely look up to Craig and everything that he's created over the years. And certainly with my vision for Evolve is definitely modeling success after a lot of what he's built in Dallas and, wanted to amplify those experiences and was speaking with another local TA leader, and she was reflecting on the people that she had met at TalentNet. And one of the things that she said she loved so much about it was that it was smaller. Yeah. And that it was more intimate. And she really had such a great opportunity to connect with the people who attended. And so, that was just such beautiful validation that we are on the right track to create something, a little bit more interactive, more workshop and, intentionally curated. I was also laughing with another friend that, the way I'm setting this up is that people are going to have assigned seats at their tables. So I get to curate who they're sitting with the first part of the day and the second part. So, no longer are you going to go to a conference and network and actually not network.
What? That happens? I've never seen that.
Yeah. So I believe, So remind me, that's where we first met, right? Was in Austin?
It was. And I agree with you. I think there's such a cool vibe to what had been created there in Dallas that I love seeing what you're trying to replicate there in Atlanta. And I think it's a great time for it. I think there's a need. And community is always good to build. So this is very smart on your part.
Absolutely. And, you have been on the, I would say, conference circuit for quite some time. You've been to the,
You're so nice.
the massive ones and the smaller
Decades.
ones.
Yes, right.
You're very well connected in this community. And, so I was just really excited, that you said yes and wanted to be a part of this. And, with my focus around really just loving on and lifting up and elevating people leaders in general, and for that in-person connection component, right? We've seen such a rise in mental health issues, not only among people leaders, but the, associates and teams that they lead. And so, we are not going to be able to help serve, fix, and support if we're also not taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear, in regards to the mental health situation. And, loneliness is one of the biggest components of a mental health issue that people are dealing with as well. And this is also what conferences help solve, is that, that connection, community is really everything right now.
Yeah, and I would say, I know that there's some research out there. I'm going to use sort of bookends to it, but something like over the last 3 years, our discipline has lost something like 15% to 18% of professionals who've stepped away from HR and TA related roles in the
Mm,
US because of burnout, as self-reported, right? You're seeing
mhm,
people saying burnout, lack of support,
mhm.
loneliness, the amount of pressure that I'm under in order to hit objectives that just are not realistic. Um,
Right.
you've got to hire 48 people in 10 days, and you're like, what? And so that is, I think that we haven't done a great um, job of supporting internally, because to be fair, the eyes of those in other departments within our organization are also focused on themselves with the pressures that they're under for what they're
Oh,
working.
100%.
So they're
Yeah.
not looking to say, let me go check out my talent acquisition professionals workload and see
Right.
if they're stressed. It's
Right.
not happening, right? So I think it's left to us to be thoughtful enough of one another to say, I know, I appreciate, I see you. How are you today? Right?
Mm,
It was that simple of today, being very specific. I just think we can be much more thoughtful to do things
100.
like that.
Yes, and, I've over the last 2 plus years, I've been primarily focusing on coaching people in our space, but I've also coached, from entry level to executive. And so many people, especially at the very top, are dealing with still that pandemic burn, is what
Yeah,
I call it.
yeah,
And their own decision fatigue, I think, has been tremendous. And they're just trying to kind of keep it together for themselves, like you said. So they're in
yeah.
survival mode. So how can they go to their teams and be supportive of them? But I love that, that focus in being present today, because let's be honest, like all we can control is, that next right step, essentially. And I would say, as having been an IC carrying really heavy rec loads, I would say in the past 2 to 3 years, it definitely gets to you.
Yeah.
And then we're also supposed to be staying relevant and learning AI and continuing to build our personal brand
Yes.
and
Yeah.
create, incredible candidate experiences. And it just gets to a tipping point where then people either start struggling with addiction issues, other mental health issues, and then you start having people leave, right,
Mhm.
for their leave of absences, or just having to take time away, or just completely leaving. I think you're right. We're having a lot of folks that are just completely jumping ship
Yep.
from being in HR. Like,
Yeah. And
bye.
not bye. I was just going to say the same thing. Bye. Peace out. Right.
Yeah.
This is not worth it. And I think contextually, you bring up some good points, right? Because we're 2 months away from 5 years from the start of the pandemic, right?
Yeah. It
And
was
if you
crazy.
think about, which is crazy, right? If you
Mhm.
think about how much organizations dealt with in PPE and all the things that came along
Mhm.
with the COVID pandemic, the
Mhm.
mass layoffs that had to occur for a number of organizations because business either shut down completely or the slowdown was significant.
Right.
Then a year later, we're doing mass hiring again. All and then now, the economy. You're seeing organizations back to RIFs and restructures in 2024, and that's a whole lot of dynamic in a very short period of time, where historically you see some of those things that I'm describing besides the pandemic, just the up and
Mhm.
down,
Right.
taking 10 to 12 years of an economic cycle.
Mm.
We've done up, down, and back again in less than 5. Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is, there are human beings that are in the middle of all of that. It
Mhm.
cannot be surprising to anyone that someone may need to raise their hand and say, I need a minute. I'm so sorry. I need a minute. Right? It's
Exactly. Yeah.
practical. Yeah.
100%. And when I was creating Evolve, that was part of the thought, right? Is that if I could have a magic wand, right, with my mascara and cast along all my favorite people leaders, it would be just to take a moment, right? And pause, like you're talking about. And one, focus on yourself.
Yeah.
Two, reflect on the importance of the work that you do. And, we laugh and we in recruiting talk about how people don't understand necessarily what we do, but we get it, right? We
Yeah.
have the opportunity to literally change people's lives every single day. And how we show up for them, day by day really matters. And I just see it all too much that we are so busy taking care of others that we forget to put that oxygen mask on ourselves. So, that magic wish is to, pause, breathe, put the mask over yourself, uh, you know, really reflect on the work that you do, and then, take the time to invest in yourself, right? Having coached job seekers in this space, more than, I would say, 70% say to me, I've never been in this position, Anna. I've never had to look for a job like this. And
Yeah.
I'm ashamed that I'm having a hard time finding a job because I hire people, I lead HR teams. Like, I should
Yes.
know how to do this. And
Yes.
I loved that our other co-sponsor had a session the other day about not shoulding on yourself. I have
Yes.
to catch
Yes.
the replay. But I love you pronounce it Maeve,
Mavi.
right?
Mavi.
Mavi. Okay, sorry.
Yes. No, no, you're
Thank
good.
you, Mavi, for being a part of Evolve as well. I'm trying
Yeah.
to get Frank to come on live too. So
Oh,
uh,
that'll be
give
fun.
him a
Good. Yeah.
nudge.
Yeah, I will give him a nudge. And you're right that Amy Wong shared about the, shoulding ourselves to death, which, by the way, when you say that really quickly, it doesn't sound like should. So I appreciate it.
Okay,
I
I'll
will
say it even more
enunciate. I
slowly.
will enunciate, right? But the thing that the consideration there really is about, to your point, shame, a sense of forgiveness. Where is there room for me to learn how to forgive? And anyone who's listened to me, I would say, especially over the last 3 years, and I really am so blessed to have so many opportunities to speak and share and be in this community for as long as I have been.
Mhm,
Um, and I don't take that for granted, but I have really narrowed down over the last few years about this forgiveness concept, because
mhm,
we don't teach people how to forgive and what the benefits of that really are, because we have plenty of people who in our space who are beating themselves up in the dark about
mhm.
where life has taken them and what
Yeah,
life looks like right now. But the next morning they need to get up, grab their coffee cup, and walk back in, hearts, rainbows,
mhm,
smiles, and let me get on
right.
the phones and do my phone screens and do my
Mhm,
sourcing, and on the HR side of things, onboard palooza and be this happy, happy, happy. And that's exhausting. It's
right.
exhausting when the well is pretty dry, because I haven't coped well with some of these interpersonal dynamics within
Mhm.
me that are going
Yeah.
to help me to be set up for success. That's well-being, not
Mhm.
wellness. That's well-being
Well-being.
consideration.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. And I think one of the things that really um, drew me to you, John, as a leader and just someone that I wanted to, have in my community was just your heart-centered nature, your ability to be vulnerable, especially being a man and being able to talk about, well-being challenges in the workplace. And, I know that you do a variety of things with your business as far as, HR solutions and some recruiting, but you have a heart for having these conversations around, what are the things that we can do to manage our own well-being, our serenity, our mental health in service of being able to show up. And one of the things that you had mentioned is a little bit of a process or framework of awareness of how you have been able to manage some of these triggers or situations that come up. Would you be open to sharing some of that with us today?
Sure. And I won't give everything away because as a
Yes.
teaser, I want to see you all at Evolve at the end of
Yes.
this month. Please come. I will be there chatting about some of these things with some great buddies on a panel.
Yes.
So I'm super
Yes.
excited about that.
I'm so glad.
Right? It's going to be very fun. But I think, thank you for that. And to answer that question, I would say one of the areas that we really struggle with from a coping standpoint is personal purpose and professional position.
Personal purpose and professional position.
Right?
Okay.
It is very vulnerable for me to
Mhm.
be authentic about where I am at the moment without feeling like it's going to jeopardize my professional position.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have relational trust in my organization that if I express today is a hard day, that's not going to be heard as, we probably need to start doing a search for John's role.
Because John's on, at the end of the diving board, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, wasn't there, this is going to be a very loose recap in my memory, but wasn't a company post recently about a company that sent out a survey to find out how people, their stress level was and whatnot. And then they turned around and laid off all the people that had reported that they were stressed out or something.
That's right. Right. I'll show you what stress is really like.
Just boot you out the door. I mean, I remember like just skimming it and being like, is this a Reddit thing or is this real life?
Is this real life? Exactly. And it's very funny that we're talking about that as well, because I've been chatting about, sort of your annual engagement survey as being one of these HR tools that we like to have right in our tool belt. And please don't give me a hard time. I understand their purpose. That's not what I'm saying. But the idea of that being not one of but the litmus test to know how people are doing seems incredulous to me, that as people practitioners, we would really think that a once a year check-in on a generalized survey is really going to give you insight into the heartbeat of the organization. If I said to my wife, of whom I've been married almost 27 years, I'm going to check in with you once a year to see how you're doing. Now, honestly, after 27 years, well, I was just going to say, after 27 years, she probably would think that's a blessing. But by and large, that doesn't make sense. We're in a relationship. We need to check in more than that. So in your work, which I'm not saying your work is a marriage, but what I am saying is work is made up of humans, and humans who have a connection need to know they have a connection more than once a year. So when you're talking about a consideration of well-being, these moments where there are structured coaching times, even those of you who do stand-ups, 5-minute weekly check-ins, whatever you're calling them, can you bake in there a pulse check about the person? How has today been? Do both. How has today been tough? How has today been a win? Because we do need to train people to look at both. I get it. We've got some folks that are Eeyores. Everything is kind of sad. It's really tough. I know. So you help to train them the other way. In
Right.
what ways has today shown some semblance of success? Ask the
Mm,
question. It gives you a frame of reference to know to what they're looking and how you might help them to have eyes to see some other things.
mhm.
As you and I are having the privilege of having this chat, there are people in Los Angeles who don't have a home,
Yeah.
who have just lost everything.
Everything. Yeah.
And the context, people that I know who have lost everything, the
Mm,
context of that probably is helpful. Not that we want people to go through those struggles, but I need to take a moment and say, yeah, it really did stink that the candidate that I thought was going to say yes to this job said no. It does stink, but I'm
mhm.
going to sort of really put that in the context of something broader so that I'm
Right.
not making it so much about me and I learn how to cope through that a little healthier.
Yeah, yeah. No, and it's such about perspective and, those regular check-ins and just being, down to earth and a
Yeah,
human. And, if I believe if we show up the way that we want our teams to show up, then you have such a better chance of building that trust and psychological safety, and just loyalty within your teams, by not trying to have this corporate persona and be just in this perfection mode, right?
yeah,
Because we've all been around long enough to know that every organization, every team has their opportunities and challenges, and it's just how do we prioritize the next right thing, in service of our health and the businesses that we serve. Um, so it sounds like, one of the ways, obviously, you've got these annual surveys, which are just the one time a
right.
year, but the way to, I think make those surveys even more relevant is to have those stand-ups, those weekly meetings, those
Yes,
uh,
yes,
quarterly performance conversations. So you have, more data and, just connection with your teams so that when you get that once a year report, you're not blindsided. And,
yes,
uh, I've seen those reports just create so much animosity among team members. And some of them are small enough to know that, like, oh, I know it was this merchant that said that, and the
yes,
VP's,
yes.
looking out for this person, and it's all political. And I'm just like, I'm just here to help you fill the position.
Right, right, right. This whole conspiracy theory kind of like take a
Yeah.
breath. Take a breath. We are, you know, handling benefits administration for our organization. We're going to make it. It's going to work out, right? This idea of contextualizing while not
Mhm.
minimizing, contextualizing while not minimizing is a skill to develop. It is not natural in humans.
Mm.
We have to
Yeah.
take time to learn how to bring context. What's the whole look like?
Right.
So that when I'm talking to you individually, I'm making sure that I'm connecting to the need or the gap that you're expressing, that I'm
Mhm.
empathetic in what it is that you're feeling,
Mhm.
and so that you feel heard and not minimized, but
Yes.
appreciate the context that now is part of it. That
Right.
is a skill set to develop in managers in ways in which I think today, probably more so than ever before. And we've got to put the time in to do that.
Absolutely. And I love that you're spreading that message, especially at the level of the types of organizations that you get to work with, because I know my own lived experience working with middle managers, up to executives that, you know, I'm always like, why are we not training these folks more? Because then, sadly, the some of this training ends up falling on the shoulders of the recruiters in some
Yeah.
capacities,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if managers were more equipped with these tools, obviously hiring, working with the recruitment teams would be so much easier. Um, for your own journey, from leaving corporate to starting your own business, you have become this champion of well-being, and part of your, I would say, toolkit is developing a habit of journaling. And so I'd love for you to tell me a little bit more about that evolution, if you will, because I definitely have had my connections and my distance from journaling over the past 10, 15 years.
It's thank you for asking me that. It's so a little bit of background context I think will be helpful. So my undergrad major was English. And which is not always thought of as the primary major to go into HR, but it's so helpful because I minored in education and communications, and the written word in the discipline of human resources matters so much. And I really think that bedrock of some of my schooling has been helpful to me in my career over the 30 plus years, right?
Love that.
Personally, it also allowed me to be comfortable with the written word for my own self. And so I started journaling in my teens because I had so much happening in me. I didn't know what to do with it.
Oh, and interesting.
So I started, I want to say I was 16. And and
I could never get my 16-year-old to journal.
And I mean, my kids now think I'm a weirdo, but the reality for me was it was the healthiest and safest for me outlet. Instead of, I didn't have the voice. I wasn't confident in my voice. That's the truth. I just wasn't confident in my voice. I found a lot of gap in me. And I was pretty broken in that, to be honest. And I'm sharing this because I think it's important for people to know that doesn't necessarily go away, once you become an adult. There are ways in which that manifests itself perhaps a little differently, but really is born out of that same truth at the core when you're 26, 36, 46, right? And beyond. So, so this journal, what a couple of lessons learned along the way. It's not an assignment. And that was hard for me because I'm a doer in those things and a checklist kind of person. Yes. Right. And a
lot of HR people are like that. Yeah.
And so when you miss a day, it's like, oh my gosh, like I would beat myself up about that. And to get beyond that, to say that's not the purpose. I don't live for the journal. The journaling is a tool for me. And if today's tool of journaling is not what I'm picking up, that's okay. But and that helps it to be something that's much more approachable by removing sort of that constraint of have to-do list kind of thing. So I want to do it as opposed to have to do it.
Yeah.
The other thing from a journaling standpoint that I would say is it's your journal. It doesn't have to have a structure that is consistent all the way through. You don't have to have 3 paragraphs in order to feel like you've done something. You can write in bullet points. You can write with different pens. You can highlight. You can draw a picture one day. It can be what it needs to be for you. The last thing that I'll say quickly as well is you have to be safe with it as well. And so if you feel that you live in chaos, and that might be environmental chaos, that someone is going to come along and grab that journal in some way, shape, or form, and your secrets will be known, then be protective of it. If it's not a notebook and you keep it in notes on your phone or some other technology, whatever works for you, be safe in it. Decide what safety looks like in it, and then put the right restrictions on it so that you can feel safe. Yes.
And it's interesting you brought that up because I was kind of contemplating on whether I wanted to share something that was relevant to that. And, growing up ADHD and kind of struggling to write anyway, I had to take English 101 like 2 times. And I struggled for a long time to get the thoughts from my head into my pen. That was very hard for me.
Yeah.
And when I got sober in 2011, part of my recovery journey involved journaling. And some of that involved, very intensive inventories of where I've been, what happened, what my part in these things were, and, what my hope and, dream would be for the future. And in regards to kind of protecting and prioritizing the safety of that, I did not realize the importance of that. And had a situation that was unfortunate because I chose not to protect that, and I learned from that experience, right? But it did take quite some time to heal from that trauma, because I was like, I don't want to write anything down. I'm gonna stuff it all and maybe put some chocolate on top of it instead of alcohol, but I really do try to make journaling a daily practice, even if it's something. And sometimes it's just, it could be writing out things I'm angry about, right? So I can release that energy. It could be like a prayer, like you said, or it could be, my go-to is just to simply write 5 things that I'm grateful for today. And I really try to stick with that and like a daily reflection. But it is important to, make sure that you safeguard that content. And then I was also cleaning some things out, and I found some journals that I was like, oh, I don't think I want my 16-year-old
right
read this. I think I'm going to burn it.
Well, it's so I'll 2 quick things to that. One, totally right, but one is there are times that I'll go back and pick up a journal from 20 years ago and read a little bit of where I was and the things that were so insurmountable in my eyes at that time, and to see on the other side, it gives me great context today to recognize this thing in front of me that I think is insurmountable today. I have a history of seeing myself get beyond the insurmountable. So 100%. It gives me confidence. And then the second thing is to your point about your 16-year-old, right? I've already told my kids that when I go from this world, cremation is my choice, and they get it. And I want all the journals in the kiln with me. Let it all burn, because it's me, because that's me. I don't want you all to be left with it. So
we're going to be redoing our wills coming up, and yes, I think I will follow those
because they'll be traumatized if they read this after I go. I don't want that for them. I want them happy memories. Let's just burn all that.
But I think journaling for HR leaders, for TA leaders, can definitely be just a way to work through all the things that we face every single day, because HR teams are the office therapists, recruiters are just taking on the energy of 14 phone calls, phone screens a day with job seekers that are in kind of that desperation energy. I mean, there's times I've hung up a phone screen and just bawled because of the stories that I've heard on the other side of the line. And, being able to kind of work through that energy to maintain that serenity and well-being is so important. So, that kind of ties back into the theme of Evolve, which is really focusing on the well-being. How can we care for ourselves and also be champions to break the stigma of, having more resources for mental health initiatives within the places that we serve, along with, staying relevant. What are the things that Kyle Lagunas and Trent Cotton and Brian Fink and Michael Goldberg, Nikki Russell, Julia Arpeg are going to be sharing about, modern day strategies around AI and innovation, TA and HR tech is very hot, but that's not a big priority of Evolve because we get so much of that at other places.
Yep.
So taking care of ourselves, making sure that we are, up to date, but then, adding in that branding component with, powerhouses like Judy Fox and Carrie Cochran and Nicole Coffey to really give us, and Rona Pierce to give us the blend of, this is how we can amplify our personal and professional brand, right? Which is important while we're taking care of ourselves. And then ultimately, that makes the companies, the employer brand that we're representing, look even better. So I kind of like how it all goes together. So
Yes.
I am excited to just
Gonna be
unlock
great.
that for our registrants. So
yeah, very exciting.
very, very fun. And I'm excited for your panel with Tiffany and Rocky. It's going to be amazing. You all have so much expertise to bring to the table. And, I think diversity initiatives go perfectly with, mental health champion initiatives within organizations as well. So
for sure, lots of consideration. If it's an inclusive perspective, makes all the sense in the world, right? So yeah,
it does. And I love that this community is getting bigger and bigger, and we're having these courageous, candid conversations, because the more we have these conversations, the more connections we make, the louder the message gets, right? And it'll get to those boardroom tables, and then all the way down to the associate level, and then it'll help normalize, these initiatives. So you're going to be here on Wednesday, the 29th, stepping on stage on the 30th.
yes.
I hope maybe you can bring a couple of your friends from Florida to Atlanta. It's always an easy flight. And, I'm teasing some folks. I'm like, okay, I get it. It's 20 days away. It's a quick turnaround, but spontaneity in 2025, let's go.
Let's
What's
do it.
stopping you?
Come join
and
us.
I thought, when I was in corporate, if my CHRO walked over to my recruiting team and said, hey guys, block off your calendar for January 30th. I've booked you all for a career development, professional development day. Enjoy, come back and let me know what you learned, right? That's what I'm encouraging a lot of my, bigger contacts at companies to do. One day out of the office to pour into your teams could, improve your retention exponentially. What did they say? I think the data that I read was 94% of employees say that if their organizations invested in their career development, they would be, more inclined to stay. You might have better data. I'm not such a great data gal.
No, it's true though. I mean, obviously, this is individuals are looking for development, and development is not just moving from intermediate Excel expert to supreme Excel expert. That's
Right.
not it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not poo-pooing Excel. I get it, but just that can't be really the mark of what development means. This is these interpersonal, these what we talked about, these coping considerations as well. We're developing a human who's going to have human interaction with others at work. It's a benefit all the way around.
All the way around. Yes. So I'm super excited about it. We're going to have a great time. Everyone, you can use the coupon Career BFF to still get the early bird price. And you have a coupon code too. Journal, which you'll have to come to Evolve to see why. I've just had so much fun creating this, and I can't wait to share it. The swag bags are amazing. The food is going to be incredible. We have a DJ the entire day. So, a little movement breaks and fun music in between sessions. And, just having incredible people together and a diverse group of people too. What I'm again, kind of shout out again to Craig and what he's built is, having a mix of, experienced, recognizable speakers on stage, and then some from way out of left field from Canada, like Tammy Cho.
Right.
And Rob Gilbert. So, but I've seen over my years of creating events, in person. I used to host HRCI events all the time. And then COVID built community of, serving almost 15,000 job seekers over my audio events. And so now it's time to bring it back in person. So thank you so much for saying yes. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being someone that I look up to in this space. And we will see you in a short, 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yes, can't wait. Thank you for letting me do this with you today, Anna. Appreciate it.
Yes, I really appreciate it. Everybody go follow John, support his content, look out for him at many other events in 2025. But most importantly, join us on January 30th. Come for the learning, stay for the party. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.